Okay, this is Brother Lewis Montgomery, and I'm very pleased to be interviewing one of the charter members of Kappa Phi Lambda, Brother Moss Kendrix. Brother Kendrix, good evening.
Good evening.
It's been great to get to know you since I've been a member of our chapter. But one of the things I want to do is make sure that more of our brothers get to know you and get to hear your story. And so we'd love to start with just asking you to tell us more about you, where you're from, and where you went to college.
Okay. I was born in Atlanta, Georgia on the 9th day of September, 1940. And my mother was at Spelman College and my father was at Morehouse College. And they met, obviously, and I'm the oldest product, and I have a younger brother that's 6 years younger than me. And his name is Alan, and he never pledged Alpha, but that's neither here nor there.
Sure.
About 2 years old, my father decided to move to Washington, D.C., and he brought the family up to Washington. And I did all of my primary school education in Washington public schools.
Mm-hmm.
Charles Young Elementary School through 6th grades. And I was lucky enough to have had a mother that taught me how to read and write before I started kindergarten.
Boy.
So in the 3rd grade, we went down to the Board of Education and they promoted me from 3 to 5.
Oh my gosh.
And I was the only boy in the group, and the other 6 people were girls. And it's interesting, all of us went all the way through our education together.
Okay.
And we were always younger than everybody else. So
Sure.
as smart as everybody else, but socially I had problems, even going through high school. So anyway, that's neither here nor there. I finished high school in 1957.
Okay.
And I went to Howard University. And at Howard, in my 2nd year, I pledged Alpha and Beta chapter, and went over on December the 13th, 1958. And I've been an Alpha ever since, and that's over 60 years now.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So why
So
the answer's no, you're experienced and seasoned.
So much so.
Nice. The answer is probably obvious, but why Alpha of all the options that you had?
Well, number one, around campus, there were only 15 Alphas on campus at that time, and I liked every one of them. And they seemed to be the kind of people I wanted to be associated with if I was going to join a fraternity. And my father told me I was, because he's an Alpha.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a 2nd generation Alpha. And,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, he pledged at Morehouse College. And,
okay.
He was very active. And matter of fact, his picture's in the history book.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, the history book that came out in '61, and I think the next edition too. So if you got any back there, look up Moss Kendrix.
Sure, absolutely. Well, my history book is right over here. I'll take a look. And I have to ask you about your name. You're the first Moss, the first and only Moss I've ever met. I'm curious as to the origin of your name.
Well, I'm a junior.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm named after my father. And my grandmother, my father's mother, was very religious, but they didn't want to call me Moses.
Ooh, okay.
So they decided Moss would be a better name.
Okay.
And so in all my years, I've only met one other person with the first name, besides my father, with the first name Moss.
Okay.
And he was so unenamored with his name that he said he was going to change it when he grew up. So I've never seen that gentleman again, but I think he made a mistake because I can be anywhere and someone I was in high school with can walk up to me and say, "Hello, Moss."
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So
it's a name you never forget.
Do that.
That's right. That's right. My name is way common. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's right. Yeah, very good. I'm a junior as well. So in
Yep,
fact,
there you go.
our oldest son is the third, but we call him Trey.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Very good. Well,
Great.
tell me, what are some of your best memories of being a college brother at Beta chapter at Howard in the late
Well, as I
50s and early
mentioned,
60s?
yeah, as I mentioned, the chapter only had 15 brothers at the time, but there were lots of brothers that came down from Morgan State and other places, because we had a frat house in those days.
Okay.
Yeah, so we called ourselves the Clean 15.
Okay.
And we didn't have line names at that time. We were just numbers. So I was number 13 out of 15, two taller brothers and myself. And that was a very interesting process, because we pledged all summer.
Okay.
We pledged over the summer for those brothers that stayed in Washington. And then when the fall came, we were officially Sphinxmen.
Okay.
And we pledged from September until I went over on December the 13th,
Okay.
which is kind of interesting, because you haven't heard that before, have you?
No, I haven't. So for instance, when I pledged Kappa
It was
Phi
a
Lambda
long
Grad,
process.
yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah.
It was a long process.
Yeah.
I was treasurer of the group, and I've been treasurer of Kappa Phi Lambda three times, and financial secretary a couple of times too. So that sort of carries on. I majored in marketing in undergrad school.
Okay, great.
My college days were really good, though, including pledging Alpha. I was in ROTC, Air Force ROTC, for the 4 years I was there. And when I graduated, I got my degree. I got my second lieutenant bars. And I retired 22 years later as a lieutenant colonel.
Okay,
in
fantastic.
the Air Force.
Okay.
So I get that paycheck every month.
Okay, well, good for you. That's why you're able to play golf so often. I get you now.
Yep. And I was one of the first people on the golf team that Howard had ever had.
Oh, really?
And I played for 4 years. And, got 4 letters.
That's
fantastic.
fantastic.
About that. I was the business manager of the student newspaper, the Hilltop, for 4 years. And that's how I made my spending money. Every ad I sold, I got 25% of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And in my senior year, I was voted to be the editor of the yearbook. And so I edited the yearbook, and that was fun. I stepped up to do things while I was in college just to see if I could do them.
Sure. Why not? Why not?
And that was the time to do it, because if you failed, there was somebody there that would say, this is why you failed. And if you didn't fail, then there was also somebody there to say, hey, good guy, good.
Sure. That's great idea. Yeah. You were sharing with me earlier that, you mentioned that you were on the golf team and that your father played golf, which is pretty unusual back in those days. There weren't a lot of Black golfers. How did your father get involved in golf?
Dad was raised in Atlanta, and he started out caddying for some people. And while they weren't looking, he was learning to play with their clubs. And he got so good at carrying bags that people would come and get him and take him to the country clubs that they played at. So by the time I came along, he was very interested in getting me and my brother to learn to play golf. So we've been playing, I guess I've been playing 64, 65 years. And I've played much better.
Okay. So what was your best ever golf handicap?
2.
You were 2. Wow, that's pretty incredible.
Yep. And when I was in college, I shot to a 2.
Okay, great. Did you all play other historically Black colleges?
Yeah, we played in the CIAA,
Okay.
which was all black colleges.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't play anybody in DC like Georgetown or George Washington or American University.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't going to happen.
Sure. Yeah, I understand. Those are the unfortunate days of segregation. I understand completely.
Yeah, and it was pretty prevalent there. The only white people we had at Howard were Jewish people, and they came because the price per hour was $7.25, and they couldn't find that credit hour cost anyplace else. So there they came.
Sure,
And
makes perfect sense.
it wasn't that many of them.
Mhm. So you mentioned when you graduated from college, you were commissioned in the Air Force. Tell us about your Air Force career.
Okay, I spent 6 years, actually I spent 4 years at Edwards Air Force Base in California.
Okay.
And the President Kennedy at that time was interested in seeing black officers populate these places. And there were 13 of us that got to Edwards at about the same time in 1962, during the months of 1962, from Tuskegee, and someplace else. But there were 13 of us,
Okay.
all second lieutenants. And there was only one other black officer on that base at that time, and he was a captain. And happily to say that after we had moved on from Edwards to our other assignments, he pledged Alpha in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was nice. And
yeah,
of that 13 of us, 6 of us were Alphas.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I've heard from my father-in-law, Brother Freeman Sands, wherever we go, there's an Alpha man, and that's a perfect example of it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
so I was a procurement officer, and that meant I was in contracting, and I bought stuff for people.
Sure.
And I did that until 1966. And in May of 66, I was sent to Vietnam. So I spent a year in Vietnam, and only time in my life, Louis, that I have ever marked a calendar. And the last night there, I didn't go to sleep.
Okay.
Because I thought I might not wake up.
Wow. That's got to be pretty scary.
Yeah, I came back and spent a year in an Air Force Systems office that was monitoring the building of the F-15 fighter aircraft in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
And I spent a year there, and decided to get out. And I got out and came back to Washington and got in the active reserves. And for the next 15 years, 14 years, I spent in the active reserves and got my promotions along the way.
Okay. You mentioned you retired as a lieutenant colonel, or as a full colonel? Okay, lieutenant colonel. That's great. Right. So what about after the Air Force? What did you do? What did you transition to then?
Right out of the Air Force, I went up to Howard to just see who I could find there and who I could see. And I ran into a classmate that was heading up the Alumni Association for the university. And she asked me if I wanted a job, and I did. So I went to work for Howard for 9 months. And the 9th month came up in June, and there were recruiters on campus, and one was IBM. And I went in and interviewed, and the man asked me, "When are you going to graduate?" And of course, I've been out of college 6 years then.
Sure. You obviously still looked pretty youthful.
Yeah, I guess I was. Anyway, they hired me, and I worked in the office products division for the next 10 years. And every every month, the first weekend of the month, I go out to Andrews Air Force Base and serve in a reserve component.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did that for 5 or 6 years, and then I got promoted, and I went over to DLA, Defense Logistics Agency,
Okay.
and they hired me, and I worked for the director of the agency in procurement.
Okay.
And that worked out very nicely because I got back into actually doing jobs in procurement that I hadn't been doing in the other active reserve area.
Okay.
So that worked out well.
Sure.
So
Did you,
in
go ahead.
1992, I think it was, I retired.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and
So
ever since then, I've been working in some civilian job. After IBM, I worked for 3M, Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing Company, in sales, and we were selling small computer items.
Okay.
So I enjoyed that, and I spent almost 10 years there. And after that, I was semi-retired, and I worked for a small company that was just starting up, and they were selling accounting people to companies and to agencies. And I spent about 6 months with them, and a couple of little jobs, and then I finally retired. And since that time, I've been doing a lot of golf, a lot of reading, and a lot of word searches. Those are books where you have words embodied in this number of letters here, and the words over here. So you got to find them over here.
Sure. Yeah, I've seen those. Those can be quite entertaining and quite taxing at times as well.
Oh yeah, drive you crazy.
Sure. So that's how you've been keeping your mind sharp then, sounds like it. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons.
Oh, that's great.
Try to do that.
Yeah, awesome. Now I understand, obviously, you're a charter member of Kappa Phi Lambda. I want to hear your story about how that came to be and how you came to be a charter member.
As best I remember that, Louis, we had a newspaper in Columbia. I forget the name of it, but I was looking through the newspaper one day, and I just happened to see that some gentlemen were interested in finding as many alphas in Columbia as they could. And I called him up, and right now I can't remember who that was, but as soon as we sign off, I'll remember.
Okay, of course. Well, you have to call me back because we want to get it on film.
Yeah. Anyway, long story short, I joined the group and helped with forming the nucleus of making Kappa Phi Lambda. And I wasn't the leader, but I was a very good follower.
And you mentioned you were financial secretary a couple of times, and obviously money is important, as we know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I enjoyed that. And other things that I've done in the chapter, though, in 2016, I had chaired maybe 5 of the golf tournaments. And this one I chaired, and Lou Baker was my assistant chair. And we had 103 golfers.
That's great.
And we made almost $11,000 every time to the foundation. So in my knowledge, I think that's the highest amount that has ever been made on one tournament.
Greatest amount I've ever
heard. A lot less than the others.
Sure, exactly. Oh, that's tremendous. Well, fantastic. That's obviously a labor of love for you being the golf committee chair.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And as we grew, more and more brothers came that played golf. So that kind of helped it too. So it was another labor of love. So I've mentioned, only thing I haven't mentioned, I've been historian in the chapter maybe 3 times.
Okay.
And the year that we were chapter of the year for the fraternity, I think was 85,
Mm.
1985, I think it was. Anyway, long story short, in 1985, we went from from the region to the general and won in both cases.
Okay.
So that was nice to get up on that stage with everybody else. Harry Evans happened to have been president that year.
That's fantastic. Well, I'm going to have to follow up with you again, because as you know, I'm historian now. And
Oh, are you?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I was elected historian most recently, as I'm, I guess, into my 3rd month. And this is part of the work that I'm doing as a historian is this oral history project. So I absolutely want to talk with you more about
one secret I can give you is collect as much information as you can, because those exhibits that have the most information in them, the main information, of course, will win you the prize.
Okay, great.
And how you get that is just to make sure that all the brothers tell you what they've been doing. And in the pandemic, it's like Brother Barrett has said to me several times, it's hard to do anything in this particular pandemic because it is so deadly.
Sure.
And we have got to be very, very careful. And like for the breakfast, it's very difficult now for us to get people to come to it.
Sure.
Those people that haven't passed on,
Right,
that were our friends, are very afraid that they're going to catch the disease, and being elderly with underlying conditions might take us away from here. So we've got to be very, very careful.
yes, absolutely.
So that's that. I also have been Alpha Man of the Year twice.
Really? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, one of the times I was Alpha Man of the Year for what I'd done on that golf tournament.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other one, I don't remember. But obviously it was earlier than
Sure.
2016.
Yeah, that's great. So what are some of your best memories of being an Alpha for 63 years?
I think some of my best memories are when I was in college. My father owned a business, and he was in public relations and marketing consultancy. And his first account was Coca-Cola out of Atlanta. And 2 of the people that he caddied for were the Chandler brothers, who were the owners of Coca-Cola.
Oh, wow.
So when he decided to open his business, he contacted Mr. Chandler and said, I would like to propose to you that I can increase Coca-Cola's percentage of business in the Black community. We call them Negroes in those days.
Sure.
in that community. So he got the job, and he did that. Black people in those days, in the 40s and the 50s, drank knee-high sodas.
Sure.
So one of the things Dad did to increase the percentage of Cokes being bought was to do sampling. And he would provide free Cokes at Alpha conventions, at the Kappa conventions, at the Omega conventions, the AK conventions, and the Delta conventions, and anybody else he could find that had a group of more than 2 people. And he was very successful at it. I lost my train of thought.
Well, we were talking about some of your best memories of being an Alpha.
So doing that sampling, I met people like Adam Clayton Powell.
Oh my gosh.
I
Wow.
met a senator from Massachusetts.
Edwin Brooke.
Yes.
Mhm.
Matter of
Yep.
fact, it was interesting. I was walking in Southwest Washington one afternoon after I'd come back to Washington, and he was walking right up to me, and he said, "Hello, Moss. How are you?"
Oh my gosh.
And
That's amazing.
I said, "Yes."
Well, that's the unique name though. You'll
Yep,
never forget
it
it.
is. It is.
Uh-huh.
So as I said, Dad was very active in Alpha. So he was very proud when I decided to pledge Alpha, because my dad never said you have to pledge Alpha for Alpha.
Mhm.
He said you do what you want to do. And as you know, we've had some brothers in this chapter whose sons have gone off and pledged Kappa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. I've
So
heard that.
I think it's really very good of a father to give his son the opportunity to do what he wants to do.
Yes, very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
have
I've
two
met
boys.
several other people too, and right now the names escape me, but they're famous alphas, because anytime you have something free, an alpha man in particular will show up.
Oh, that's great.
So
That is
thank my father
fantastic.
for that, very much so.
Sure. Your father sounds like he was quite a person, quite a
Oh,
man.
he was. Dad told me once that he never woke up without a new idea.
Mm,
So as soon
wow.
as he woke up, an idea to serve his clients would be good. He had Coca-Cola, he had Carnation Milk, he had Ford Motor Car Company,
Mm,
and he had a couple of others, and I just don't remember anymore, but
mhm.
it fell on bad times, and he died not a happy man.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to
Thank
hear
you.
that.
I appreciate that.
Sure. Well, as you think about the importance of alpha, obviously you became an alpha in 58. You know what year your dad became an alpha?
No, I'm not sure, but I think it must have been 37 or 38,
Okay.
1937 and
Yeah.
1938.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why do you think alpha is still important in 115 years after its
Yeah.
founding?
I think more now than any other time in our history, I think it's important that young Black men have an ability to join an organization that helps them further themselves along with the group. Like, for instance, I'm still in touch with 5 of my line brothers. We had 15, but we lost a couple, meaning lost.
Mm-hmm.
Can't find them,
Okay.
and several have died. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 that live right here in the area.
Nice.
So, we talk quite frequently, and we haven't seen each other during this time, but this too shall end.
Sure. Absolutely.
In the pandemic.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Indeed.
So I think it's very important that a young man coming to college has an opportunity to join something like Alpha Phi Alpha.
Mm-hmm.
It will be Carmen White is one of my line brothers, and he tells me quite frequently that he's so happy he pledged Alpha, he didn't know what to do.
I could believe it. I could absolutely believe it. As you know, I came into the fraternity relatively late. I'm a fall 19 initiate, but I couldn't be happier that I'm here. I'm glad I waited, but I'm glad that I'm in, and I spend a lot of my social time with other alphas, including my line brothers, and I've thoroughly enjoyed these opportunities to meet with you and other charter members and other senior brothers, because you've paved the way. My last interview was with Brother Ken Jennings, who I know you know very well, and he said something that really stuck with me. He said that we're all standing on the shoulders of giants.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I think about your dad was a giant.
Mhm, mhm.
Adam Clayton Powell was a
Oh,
giant. And there are
absolutely.
many, many others whose
Yeah.
shoulders we literally are standing on, and and I'm pleased to be standing on your shoulder, Brother Kendricks.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. It hurts. Oh, it
Yes.
doesn't. It
Yeah.
feels good. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Well, again,
brother.
thank
Well,
you.
thank
Anything
you.
else before we wrap up?
Uh,
I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I'm looking forward to
No, I
playing
don't
golf in the
think
not too distant
so. I
future.
think that you've asked the right questions, and hopefully I've given you some decent answers. And
Oh,
if not,
fantastic
that's the
answers.
best I could do.
This was a hole in one.
Okay, I finally got one.
That's right. You're probably gonna get one when we play together too. I hope you do.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be great, wouldn't it?
Oh, that would be fantastic. That would be absolutely
We'd have
fantastic.
something that would tie us together forever.
Sure, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Brother Kendricks, again, thank you
Mother,
so much for your time
yes,
this
brother.
evening. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. What we're going to be doing ultimately, we're going to create a YouTube channel, and we're going to post all these interviews on YouTube so that other brothers will have the opportunity to learn more about you and to hear your and other fantastic stories of other brothers within Kappa Phi Lambda. So thank you so much
Okay,
again
I
for your time.
appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You take care. Have a good evening.
Okay, have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.